Okay.
Good morning. Welcome the Personnel Board meeting for Tuesday, January 14th, 2025. It is 8:39 a.m. All three members are present. We do have a pretty full agenda and a lot of guests to talk to various different agenda items here. So we will try to make this as fluid as possible. The first item on the agenda is public comment. Is there any public comment?
Yep.
Seeing no hands, so we will continue to approval of the December 16th, 2024 meeting minutes. Any questions or comments on those?
I move, do we accept it?
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, moved and seconded. No further discussion. Roll call vote. Dorian,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
and I am I as well. So that's unanimous. Vanessa, when you get a chance, can you just change John's name
Yep.
in the Zoom? I'll let you go with your employee transition report first, though.
Okay. We actually have no transitions to report this month.
Thank you. Going on to 4A as an alpha, discussion of existing employee salary structure, including the future action items that were discussed at the last meeting. So Mark or Vanessa, did you just want to update the board on anything that you have done in terms of research as a result of the meeting discussion last time?
Yeah, so we're continuing to try and get some data from the other communities that we've been, our comp communities. Been a little bit hard during the holiday season to reach some of those people, and a lot of people are still making decisions about their FY26 budgets and salary structure. So I actually have a call scheduled at the town of Maynard this afternoon. So we're continuing to look at that piece.
Okay. So can we commit to, once you have that piece, even if it requires a special meeting, that we'll do that?
Sure.
Okay. Are there any other questions on that? Okay. So I'm going to potentially reorder some of these sub bullets just to allow the different department heads in particular to address all their items at the same time. So we are going to review potential revisions to the FY26 SAP. The first one I'll ask you to do is bring over the town clerk, and I'll have him address 2 bullet points on this: town code references to SAP on file in the town clerk's office, and also address the bullet point assistant town clerk add title back to the SAP section 20. Morning, Jim.
Good morning.
How are you?
Pretty well, thanks.
Thanks for joining us, and thank you for the red line in advance. Maybe I'll just give you the floor for a few minutes. It can be brief, just what you're looking to accomplish with both the job description as well as the potential updates to the SAP, and then we'll just entertain discussion from the board.
Certainly, thank you. The town code, the SAP is approved at town meeting, but for a reason that none of us really understand, it's not printed in the town code itself and published, which is, I think that's a bad idea. So I'm proposing to modify the language in chapter 31 of the town code, which basically has one sentence. It says the personnel regulations consisting of the salary administrative plan are enacted annually, and the latest plan is on file in the town clerk's office. So I just want to change that. So it would say the personnel regulations consisting of the salary administrative plan are enacted annually, and then we would insert the SAP as approved at town meeting into that section of the town code. Just very straightforward, nothing, that pure vanilla. The second thing is section 18 of the SAP has a section titled Amendment of the Plan. And basically it states that the plan can't be amended by the voters at town meeting unless the personnel board has had the opportunity to act upon it. And frankly, it's something that most people aren't aware of. The prior moderators have allowed the SAP to be modified at town meeting. And I just think that the voters at town meeting should have an opportunity to, this is a self-inflicted penalty or a restriction. It's not required by any state regulations or rules. And as much as we can modify zoning regulations, complicated things like that or so forth, I think the voters should have the right to do that. So that's what the second bullet is. And finally, the third thing, very simply, is to change the job description for the administrative assistant in our office to assistant town clerk and add one line to that, which would enable that person to administer the oath of office to all elected and appointed officials. Doesn't change the grade, doesn't change the money, nothing. It just gives that person the right to swear people in. And, if you have a situation right now that if I'm off and Amy's at lunch or something, a resident comes in, it just makes it more convenient for the people. That's all it is. And those are the three simple changes I'd like to see.
Any questions on any of those three for Jim?
I've seen the SAP modified on the town meeting floor.
Yes, it was. Steve Moriarty allowed it, and I was actually the one that made the modifications. But I brought it up with Paul Semino, and he said that he would not allow it because of this language in Section 18. So it's kind of an interesting thing that because Section 18 of the SAP doesn't allow it to be modified, we can't modify it on the town floor, even though it's actually not printed in the town code. So it's a crazy rule. So.
Well, I think, we go through as a personnel board, we go through the plan and make our adjustments and present it to the town meeting for approval. And I just don't think we should have to go through all, somebody changing everything that we've already gone through.
Well, let me give you an example of this, a simple one. I understand that there'll be some discussion about changing the stipend for the tree warden. Okay, and I don't know what the number is. I'm going to pick a number out of the sky. Let's say it's $10,000. And if a voter at town meeting happens to see that for the first time, and the voter would say, no, I think that should be no more than $5,000. Let's say the next year a resident wanted to change that and reduce it from 10,000 to 5,000. If the personnel board had not discussed that during the year, the moderator would not allow it on the town floor because of this. And I just think that the voters at town meeting should have a right to modify anything at town meeting. You remember back a couple of years ago, CPC said that CPC articles could not be amended on town floor, which was not correct. We have very complex rules with the zoning boards that are modified on town floor. And frankly, if somebody were to make a modification, try to make a modification on town floor, you as the personnel board could state why you disagree and what the regulation should be, what the rules should be.
John, I'll maybe add on. I honestly didn't know what to think about this at first when Jim, originally asked to be on the agenda. But I err on the side of, making sure that the voters do have an ability to propose something. Just because they propose something doesn't mean it passes. And if something was thrown on us that we had not had a chance to vet, I would think that if any personnel board member, or candidly anyone that was impacted by the proposed change, stood up and said, this has not been vetted. This, there's been no discussion about it. This is kind of coming out of nowhere. And it wasn't just something as simple as Jim's item of money. It was more substantive in terms of, potential policy or plan. I would hope that rational people, and I realize you can't always guarantee the thought process behind certain motions, would take a step back and say, this one probably isn't ready for a vote today, and either indefinitely postpone whatever amendment's being proposed or vote it down to allow for the proper vetting. But I do think that as perfect as I hope we all are, there are sometimes things that maybe we didn't think about, someone that come to our public meetings, et cetera. And it just, again, you never know how these things are going to unfold. And I realize it's, outside of the norm of the vetting process. And I realize why it's there in the first place. But I'm not opposed to removing it to give kind of that optionality, that I think is afforded to every other part of the town code.
So you're saying that somebody can change the chart we have for payment, for grades and all that? They can just say, oh, I think this person should be making this much money and make that vote on the floor?
Well, as an example, right? Let's just say someone tried to change the chart, for example, that you're referring to. There's a corresponding motion that comes in the article usually that's right after the SAP, right? You have to then fund it. So you could vote to pay someone $1,000 an hour as an example, but you're not going to get that many hours out of the person, unfortunately, because there's going to be a corresponding budget in the next article where it would have to actually be funded. But I mean, yes, that is a conceivable potential outcome.
I'm looking at a potential outcome of being a disaster. And until I really understand the ramifications of this change, I'm not willing to vote yes on this. I think we really need to think about the impact this is going to have. And if people can, town meeting just decide they're going to change stipends, and they're going to do all kinds of other stuff. And then that's going to come back at us, and we're going to have to try to fix or adjust. I don't think we should be making that change until we've really taken a hard look at what's going to happen if that happens, if we approve that.
So what would you need further from Jim or anyone else that would be a proponent of this to make an affirmative decision one way or another?
I need to take a look at what possibilities or different ramifications of changes that people can make on the town floor. Like, if somebody just decides an employee should get more money and they make that change on the floor, that's going to impact the entire grid. It's going to impact other employees. Are we going to go one employee at a time and change salaries? Are we going to go one stipend at a time and just decide to change that? Departments haven't had a chance to look at how that's going to impact budgets. I mean, there's too many different aspects of this change. I think we really need to take a harder look at it. Right now, I'm against it. I'm not saying that I'd be against it later, but I need more information. I don't think we should just vote this in today. I think we need to maybe revisit it at a different meeting. Sorry, Jim.
I think my proposed next step would be that we get an opinion from Kate Federoff. And from a legal perspective, is the current provision even binding? Right? And what does it bind us to? And potentially look at how this is dealt with in other communities. You can't plan for every scenario. And I don't think we ever, should put ourselves in that position. But again, maybe we can get some more information. We do not need to make a decision on this particular one today. So.
Well, it's the same, my personal problem with the town meeting is that the town personnel board, finance advisory, everybody, selectmen, they hold hearings prior to town meeting where all this information all comes out and everything can be discussed. And then, granted, thank goodness citizens show up to town meeting, but they show up, they've never been to any of these hearings. They haven't got the faintest idea what's going on previously. And we wind up spending hours there discussing stuff that was already discussed at these different board meetings and everything. So I don't support this amendment either.
Do you have any concerns with the modified town code, chapter 31 personnel, or the assistant town clerk ones? Then I will move that we support for presentation to town meeting the modification to town code, chapter 31, as presented in the packet, as well as adding the job description, adjusting the position to be assistant town clerk in Schedule A, grade 3. There a second to that motion?
Second,
Any further discussion?
No.
All right, roll call vote. Dorian,
I,
John,
I,
and I am I as well. We will do the appropriate follow-up with Kate, and then Jim will let you know where that stands and decide how we want to position this for a future agenda.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thanks for joining us,
Have a
Jim.
great day. Bye-bye.
Okay, next let's go to recreation. So section 20, Schedule C, seasonal personnel, amend classification and pay scale. So can we bring Travis over?
his name spelled wrong.
Hey, Travis,
Good morning, everybody.
how are you?
Thank you for carving out some time for me. I appreciate it.
You had a chance to meet everyone on the personnel board at this point?
I think so, but I might not have. I apologize.
You muted yourself, Travis.
There we go. I'm Travis Farley. I'm the new recreation director for the town of Southborough.
Great, welcome.
Thank you.
I know we've had a chance
Good
to
morning.
interact with on some other committees.
Yep.
What I thought, we obviously have your memo that you prepared in advance. I do want to give you some time to just explain what you're looking to accomplish today.
Yep.
I will say, though, we're going out of order, right? Typically, you go to the Recreation Commission first,
Yes.
and then the Personnel Board. So, in order to respect the normal process we take, I'm certainly happy for the board to give you feedback today. But I would like the Recreation Commission to take their position first, and then we have time to get this effectuated for town meeting. And the main reason I want them to do that is, especially in the event that they do not like your salary projections in terms of the hourly rates that you're proposing here, and choose in particular to be more aggressive, then it would be very hard to undo our vote if we settle on that. So I just want to make sure we kind of step through that, but certainly happy to give you feedback today and hear what you're looking to do so that it hopefully the next time is a very quick sort of process.
Yeah, that'd be great. I appreciate you making that point. Yeah, we didn't have a December meeting, so it's just been it's been a little while. So we're meeting on the 28th of this month, and then we should be able to get their vote, yes or no, by then.
Okay.
Great.
So why don't you just give us some background on what you're looking to accomplish or anything that may not, be fully captured
Yeah.
in the memo.
Definitely. Happy to give you a little bit of background. Just two tweaks to the Schedule C. The first one being our recreational after school program, which is all the enrichment programs we do at the schools, Neary, Woodward, and Finn. This person is basically the connect all. They are the ones gathering the kids and filtering them to the different programs that we do at the different schools. They're talking to parents, they're talking to vendors. There's definitely an added element of responsibility for this position. I've done a history on the program supervisor / RAP monitor position. I think historically, maybe pre-COVID, it was just camp counselors that kind of transitioned over from the summer to the school year. So it was kind of seamless and it made sense that it was in a grade 1. But what I've gathered is post-COVID, there's been a transition to a little more seasoned staff. They've taken on a little more responsibility. Obviously on the day-to-day when you're interacting with the program supervisor, which is Christina McCarthy, you're interacting with multiple vendors on a lot of different levels. You're interacting with parents. There's just that added level of responsibility. So I think we have a couple seasoned staffs right now. We have 3 in total right now that are making just above minimum wage. I think it would be a little more appropriate giving their responsibility and their what they're taking on if they would be a better fit in grade 2 for that position. And in the event that we were unfortunately, if they were ever to leave, it would make us a little more competitive with the industry standard, with a little bit of responsibility that they take on. So what I'm proposing is a grade 1 move the RAP monitor / program supervisor position from a grade 1 to a grade 2, if that makes sense. I think, and we made a tweak, a red line transition from, if you look at the program supervisor position, the only thing we redlined and added was 3 to 5 years experience, which is what we would want that position to have. And that's the only change we made to the job description. And I think it warrants a move to grade 2 with that experience that we're asking, if that makes sense.
So Vanessa, you don't have the job description on, I know it's in the packet, but amending the job description itself is not on the agenda. So.
Oh, that's my, if that's something that we're
Yeah,
not.
so procedurally, to make sure we comply with
Okay.
open meeting law,
Mm.
I think we should table any discussion on the job description. But I think what you're asking, Travis, right, is you're saying you made some adjustments to the job description.
Yeah.
That then should lead to a proposed grade change within Schedule C.
Correct.
Based on what you're suggesting, is the evolution of the position over the past few years. That's basically what you're looking to accomplish, right?
Correct. And then this can be more feedback. And like you said, when we go to the commission on the 28th,
Yeah.
then I can bring the position change with that request.
Yeah, so my suggestion is redline your job description, have your commission vote on a revised job description, coordinate with Vanessa to make sure it's in the same format as all other town job descriptions, which I do not believe this one fully is. And then if there is a request to regrade, which you've already pretty much said that, then the personnel board would decide at that point, based on the job description that's presented, whether to regrade or not, and what the process would be for the regrade. But we have time to get that all through before town meeting if those are changes that people are supportive of.
Okay. I can definitely do that. That's an easy one. And
Okay.
I'd also like to add that these 2 changes are revolving funded or program funded positions, obviously. So there's no impact on the taxpayer. These are funded through program fees and registrations that we take in as well.
Are you changing the registration fees to accommodate for the extra cost?
There would be a minimal, not much, registration increase for this change, but it wouldn't be much at all.
Okay. All right, then you have a second one, which was a new schedule for Schedule C, correct?
That's correct. And this is something that I'd like to try to refresh every maybe 3-4 years. It's just trying to be competitive with the industry standards as we see these minimum wages go up. Obviously, that's impacted us on the camp counselor level. So obviously, for a seasonal staff, we go up to roughly 25 or 30 seasonal staff in the summer to accommodate our very robust summer program, summer camp. A lot of kids, which is great. And our program offerings go through the roof in the summer, like a lot of rec departments do. That we would just like to see the minimum, our grade 1 for our camp counselors go from basically a $15 to $17 range, and see if we can bump that up to maybe a $16 to $18 minimum range. That would be $1 above minimum wage as of January. And I did pull some other rec departments locally. I know those aren't the comparisons when you're looking at Southborough, and I can pull that data when I come next time. But you can see a lot of rec departments are transitioning to that starting at $17, $18, $19 an hour. And I think with it'll also help us for retention as well. A lot of these camp counselors used to be those coveted summer jobs. And kids would stay with the rec departments through high school, through college. Now we're seeing that the kids will unfortunately, unfortunate for us, fortunate for them, they're taking on internships, summer responsibilities. We usually only get them for 2, 3, 4 summers at most. This would help us recruiting with the private sector as well. I mean, the Dunkin' Donuts starting wage, I forget, you see those now at $17, $18 an hour. So this will help us be competitive with the private sector as well. And I think it would go a long way for, like I said, retention as well. We're trying to reward good program offerings and good work over this summer and moving forward as well. And I think that would help with that. And again, they're program funded positions as well, and there'll be a minimal increase, if that, for this added change.
Okay, questions from the board? Maybe I have one recommendation for you, Travis. When
Yeah.
you said, obviously we should be complying with minimum wage, even though I realize there's a difference between federal and state and what we have to naturally comply with. But
Yeah.
we had this conversation with your predecessor as well in
Yeah.
terms of, especially when it jumped pretty quickly to 15.
Yeah.
So my personal view is I would encourage you in the commission to not wait 3 to 4 years to bring stuff forward. And if there is a consideration that we should just be adjusting this with our regular, I'll call it COLA, that we're doing for employees like yourself.
Yep.
You should certainly be considering that, especially if there is no change in the minimum wage in a given year, because that way you wait 3 to 4 years, that number becomes stale very quickly. So just something to consider when you go back to the commission of like how we maintain this going forward.
Yeah, I just like to, that was just a ballpark. Every other year or every couple of years, just trying to stay on it as you try to compete with the industry standard as it moves up.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. And again, because you're essentially passing this through to the ultimate user, obviously you usually pay for what you get, right? If you're going to be below market standards, these are people that are watching residents, kids, et cetera. So
yeah, it's very
obviously want to be cognizant of that. The other thing is for Mark and Vanessa, the fact that we still have I just need a refresher on this. The fact that we still have annual listed as opposed to just an hourly rate in Schedule C just continues to baffle me every time someone comes through on that, because these employees, I can't think of anyone that's full-time that sits in Schedule C, because otherwise they'd be up in Schedule A. I realize it's provided to give kind of a highlight of what it would be, but
High level, yeah.
yeah, but we
Want to strike those columns then?
Yeah,
I don't know. Does anyone
I agree. No,
does
I
anyone
agree.
find
with
it
you,
at all
Jason.
useful?
I'm just looking at that going, they're not there all year.
Yeah.
I agree. I would cut
Okay.
them out.
So that's not, Travis, you don't have to do anything on that, but that's more of a formatting once we decide on what the rate should be.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So Travis, I think next steps are we can put this on our February agenda, assuming you all meet at the end of January. I think you need to get your commission to vote on the grade 1 movements that you've suggested in terms of the pay rate, and then job description. If there are red line edits, just making sure they're in agreement with that. And item that I'll call it the correlating item with that would then be there's a request to recreate it as you've already outlined.
Perfect. I can do that.
Okay. Sorry to make you come back, but
No.
I think that'll be more beneficial to make sure we do this in that order as we move forward.
Oh, it makes perfect sense. I appreciate the feedback, and this is my first time going through it, so I appreciate everybody taking the time.
Anytime. Thanks for joining
Thanks
us.
for coming in to talk to us.
Thank you very much, guys. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.
Have a good one.
All right. You too. All right. We will go to town accountant next. So this is going to be agenda item proposed change to assistant town accountant job description classification. Hi, Carla.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me. I appreciate the time. I am looking to respectfully ask that the personnel board consider reclassing the assistant town accountant position, which is currently in grade 5 of the SAP. That's really my request today. I haven't run this proposed job description by selectmen or anything. I figured I would come to you first as step one and see if you were amenable to that.
Any comments from the board?
So it's currently in grade 5,
It's currently a grade 5. Yep.
so move to a 6.
Well, what am I going to say? The emphasis that I kind of took with the job description at this point is kind of getting away from like the assistant being the processor role and emphasizing that the ability to analyze financial tasks and department processes, like if this, then that. Like if we're paying a bill, how does that track with the budget and track with the revenues? And if we're setting up something in a vendor database, how does that track through at the end of the year for 1099? So just more of not the processing piece that will still be part of the job, but just, you know, building up kind of 2 points of contact within the department that could answer questions for boards and committees. And just kind of going along and building up that position. It is one of the few positions in the town that provides statutory backup for the department head. So in my absence, the assistant would be signing POs, signing warrants. I feel that's a, you know, big responsibility. And overall, as you know, being the personnel board, over the past 14 months, we've welcomed 3 new department heads, 3 business administrators, a payroll specialist, and we've also added some remote users onto our system. So our processes here in accounting have changed a lot with all these new people, and training and explaining and things like that is that's been a big part of our department responsibilities lately as well.
So I think procedurally, Carla, it's going to be somewhat similar to what we just told Travis, right? I think we need the select board as the appointing authority to officially approve the changes to the job description. Then part and parcel with that, it can then come back to us. I'm okay if the personnel board is okay, if the select board approved it, let's just say tomorrow. I know they don't have a meeting tomorrow, but like if they approved it tomorrow, that we could entertain the regrade process, like score it outside of the meeting to bring it back to the next meeting. Because I don't know if it will result in a regrade or not without taking, because without going back through how it got into the current grade, then looking at the changes, you know, I think the way that we're going to measure this is whether the changes warrant enough of a jump, right? So if this was at the top end of the scoring of the current grade, and then these extra responsibilities, like I don't, right, and we don't usually discuss that here, but I would keep the process moving so that when we got to February, assuming the select board agreed with what you're proposing as the appointing authority, we would be in a position to, 1, approve that red line, but 2, also have a general reaction to whether this will result in a regrade or not. Does that make sense procedurally for everyone?
Yes. Yep.
But I am happy to provide feedback just for you to consider as you go through the select board now, given it is on our agenda. My main question on this particular position is, I realize the world of accounting has evolved, especially private sector in the past few years in particular. Are these items that if the incumbent in the current position left tomorrow, would be these items that you're proposing to add would be what I'll call like non-negotiables in terms of who you would like look to hire to fill that position? What I'm trying to ask really is, has the role evolved because of the strength of the person in the position, or is this what the position now requires as an assistant town accountant in any municipality?
I feel that the changes that have happened in other departments that directly affect our department has caused this job to become wider, the lens to become wider when doing these tasks in the
Can you-
job.
Can you highlight those changes other than the turnover that you mentioned?
Sure. Well, so, yeah, the training piece, obviously, and also, you know, just building up another point of contact within the department, like if I'm in a meeting or I'm out, say, or whatever, just someone else who can answer some questions and make decisions, you know, and know the impact of making those decisions. Again, this job is one that steps in statutorily if the department head's not here. So, and, you know, just there has been many things coming from boards and departments, and we're seeing, and it would be nice to be able to have another position within the department that understands the depth of the reporting and things like that, to be able to answer those questions.
And the statutory authority is not new.
No, it's not.
Okay. Was there a reason that wasn't in there before, or do we? Or like that's being highlighted now? I mean, I guess that seems to be an emphasis of part of this, which I realize we have in a few other departments as well.
Yep.
But I'm just trying to think about, again, your request for reclassification, like when we get to that, just
Yep.
making sure that we have kind of an understanding of what is new and actually new versus what is new and just wasn't properly reflected in the job description.
Well, even the idea of, you know, working with the software, working with IT, again, I feel because new people I know you said aside from the new people, but working with new people, we're checking different things in different ways within this job over the past 14 months. We're looking at things that we, you know, from different lenses, different views to make sure transactions are being accurately recorded. So I feel like the impact of new people in the organization affects our office directly.
So if you had no turnover this year,
Okay.
how would that impact everything?
I still think with new people, you're looking out for more, there's more angles to wrap your mind around versus people that have been doing the job for a long time. And again, just with, you know, being able to answer requests and provide support to boards and committees, you know, and be timely with that.
Okay. Other questions or feedback from the board?
Good question for you, Jason. Do you, regarding the grading, I've normally done that along with a member of the personnel board. Do you want to talk about who that would be now so we can prep for that next meeting?
I think we usually had 2 personnel board members independently score it plus yourself.
I think it's just been one. At different times it was Dorian, other times it was Betsy. I don't recall if you've done it yourself.
I have, because I remember multiple instances with Barry doing
Okay.
it. So
Okay. That was a change when Barry was on the board.
yeah, so I believe having multiple perspectives on it to bring back to the board is important, given that we don't bring the actual scoring back per se, and to protect the integrity of the process. So I'm happy to be part of it and would welcome assistance from one other member to not create a quorum. All right, John raised his hand. Dorian, any objections to that?
No, I was just gonna say I'll do it, but if John wants to do it, great, no problem.
Okay, so
Thank you.
when is the select board meeting, Vanessa?
Well, they're meeting the 21st and then the first Tuesday in February.
Okay, so is there any reason this wouldn't be on the 21st agenda?
Nope,
It seems
I
like
think it
Carlos
should
got her
be.
memo ready.
Yeah. Yep, we're in the
Okay.
process of finalizing that agenda, so we could still add that.
All right, so assuming they approve it on the 21st, let's just start the process after
Okay.
that.
Thank you.
All right, anything else for Carla? Thank you for all the detail, and we will keep this moving.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate your time. Have a good
Thank
day.
you.
Hi, Carla.
All right, we're gonna go on to adjusting annual stipends in section 20, Schedule B. Do we want to bring Brian over for that? Brian Stearns, that is. Wrong Brian. Although we gladly have Brian Valentine,
Yeah.
but I don't think he wants to speak to this one.
Sorry. They were right next to each other. So I'm happy to open this up. Well, Brian joins us, Brian Stearns, that is.
Sure.
There's a memo in your packet regarding the request to increase this stipend. Brian, we've tried to set forth all the duties that fall under the role of the veterans agent. And, you know, Brian does a lot of things in between and on the weekends, of course, as well, supporting all our veterans. But in particular, we have not increased this stipend for about 8 years, and it was several years before that. So we would like to respectfully request an increase to this annual stipend for the veterans agent. I don't know, Brian Stearns, if you want to add any more to that discussion regarding your duties?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, you can't see me. I can't see me anyway. I think my video is out. So yes, thanks for meeting, and thanks for meeting with me. Appreciate everything that you do, and I appreciate our veterans more than you know. Our office continues to stay busy, even in the small town of Southborough. It's I think that most of our claims fall into 3 categories: Veterans Health Administration, Veterans Benefits Administration, Veterans Cemetery Administration. Right now, I have about 15 veterans federal claims going on that I'm tracking that we started from Southborough, and those are for Southborough veterans and widows. Those include pension claims, compensation claims, and a couple of claims for presumptive Agent Orange claims from Vietnam and even for Korea. Most of our compensation claims revolve around hearing losses, and most of our claims are positively adjudicated at the federal level once they get processed through. And the process period is about 120 days from start to finish, and that does not include appeals, if it were to go to appeals. We have historically had 2 to 3 state claims, which are Chapter 115 under Mass General legislation, and those are, in a nutshell, public assistance for those in need. So those claims take a little while to develop because there's so much data that we have to input to the Executive Office of Veteran Services. Those claims are ongoing, they're monthly, and they're all dependent upon income and assets, not including homes and car, of course. But those definitely help our less fortunate veterans and widows in case they need the assistance and funds to kind of sustain themselves, because the Social Security and supplemental security and even VA compensation at low levels does not compensate them enough to even reach the 200% poverty level. So that's what we work on. The Cemetery Administration, of course, is deals with anything from presidential memorial certifications of their service to burials and ordering of the grave markers for their service. And it also includes any type of honors that is requested for burial. And we work with the local brain cramp. We work with the local offices that do the burials as far as the I can't think of the name of them. Anyways, we have different towns come in, and sometimes there's a lot of different burials that come from different towns. So it doesn't necessarily need to be a Southborough veteran, but they have to have some connection to Southborough to be buried here. So we'll get anything from death certificates to see if the widow is eligible for benefits based on their type of death. And I think a lot of what we do has to do with healthcare, and we have to know a lot about healthcare. We're not doctors, of course, but we have to know how to adjudicate the claims in a positive light so that the VA can read the claim and say, okay, I understand what you're trying to get here or what you're after. So that's pretty much what we do. I don't want to carry it on too long. I know you're busy, but that's what we're at. And just wanted to give you a synopsis of what I do on a more normal basis, on a daily basis. And I think that's about it, unless you have any questions.
I don't have any questions, just wanted to clarify one item because it may relate to the next item we're going to discuss. Your position, Brian, the stipend is the only form of compensation, correct? There's no hourly wage that is attached to the position?
That's correct. It's a stipend, just
Okay.
annual stipend, paid monthly.
And I think we
I can
can all
break it
agree.
down if you'd like.
No, and I think we can all agree that the cost of living has significantly increased since the last adjustment here. Would you say that the hours continue to be equal to or greater than what they were at the time of the last adjustment?
I think it's continually getting larger, more hours, and there could definitely be more hours added. What I'm trying to do now is do a vet talks, which I have in other towns, and that brings more veterans together to understand what their needs are for the Southborough veterans, what their needs are. It's more of an outreach type of thing that we're doing now, whereas before there wasn't as much outreach. People would come to us. Now we're going to them and saying, there are benefits out there that'll help you. And we also try to keep the Chapter 115 levels down, which is can be a burden to the town. Even though it's an unfunded, because it's an unfunded mandate that we have, and we try to get those people that are out of work or anything like that into jobs so that they can self-sustain. So yes, I think it's increasing. It hasn't increased significantly, but I can see an uptick, yes, in hours.
Okay.
Jason, I'd like to make a motion to approve the veteran agent stipend from 15,000 to 17,500 annually.
There's a second.
I'll second, but that's effective July 1st, 2025.
July 1, yep, 2025, yep. It'll go in the SAP.
If funded.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, motion is made and second. Any further discussion? All right, roll call vote. Dorian?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
And I am I as well. Thanks, Brian, for everything you do for our veterans, and thanks for bringing this forward. I will leave you with a parting comment that, much like I said to Travis on the recreation side, let's not wait however many years we've now waited on this one. Like, we should keep this, if this is the only form of compensation with the position, as long as the hours continue to be what they are and consistent, then we should be thinking about this like we think about other things on an annual basis.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Brian.
All right, let's go to tree warden next. So bring Bill over. Hi, Bill.
Hey, good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Did I glitch out there?
Yeah. So you've heard some of the conversation in front of you. Obviously, this is a different position.
I actually didn't. I've been working, so I haven't been paying attention.
Oh, that's
Sorry.
okay. So I just want to draw. We just heard from Brian, who is a stipended position as a veterans agent, but that's the only form of compensation. I think before we go into the tree warden discussion, I just want to clarify that the current position is held by a member of the DPW union, correct?
That is correct, but
But there's
I
not a
don't see,
requirement. There's not a requirement that it has to be held, which is
no,
why.
it can be an outside person. It can be, yeah. It just so happens to be somebody who's employed by the DPW.
Yeah, so I just want to draw in, and obviously that individual that currently holds it receives an hourly wage, is subject to overtime, but obviously this is an additional responsibility that is on them, much like any other position. Many of our other stipends in the people that hold them, whether they're in the union or just subject to the SAP. I think the reason I'm bringing this up, I think it's critically important that we understand why it sits in the SAP. And obviously because there is collective bargaining that also does happen, from time to time, with that union as with any union. So with that being said, Bill, if there's anything you want to say that's not in the memo that you submitted in terms of your rationale for requesting the increase.
No, I think the
certainly-
memo says everything, all the pertinent points. But to address your comment about the SAP, the select board did touch on this briefly, and I believe the logic was that, it may not be a DPW employee. It might be, just an individual that's qualified to do that service. So that is why it's under the SAP and not necessarily DPW. Mark, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, thanks, Bill. I was just going to put my hand up. The other issue with that, and surprised Bill didn't mention that, is if you put it in the collective bargaining agreement, you do not have somebody who is qualified. We likely are going to have to pay to train that person to get them qualified. If in fact, it is a stipend position, we do have to have a tree warden. Again, the special act was just changed. Less than a week ago, the governor finally signed it, that took that authority away from the select board, and now is going to be placing it with the person who has been our tree warden designee for the board. And again, as Bill said, we're very fortunate to have somebody in the DPW who's doing this, but that may not always be the case. And I think we need that flexibility to be able to address that outside of collective bargaining.
Yeah, and I think we should also acknowledge that, well, our current DPW superintendent is under contract. We do have the DPW superintendent in the SAP as well. So, obviously, both current and any future DPW superintendent may or may not be qualified to be a tree warden at a certain point too. So like there is a natural link to even a position within the SAP, absent everything you've already mentioned, Mark. So there are questions for Bill based on what was submitted or comments? Go ahead, John.
I fully support his request. All you have to do is watch the tree hearings in town, and I can't believe you can do it on a part-time basis.
Thank you,
Dorian,
John.
any
Well,
comments?
unfortunately, it's a trend, and I don't see it improving anytime soon. So the level of effort, I think, it is tremendous that's required.
A lot of time.
The
Any
only-
comments, Dorian?
No, I wanted to make the motion.
Okay, just go ahead and finish, John. Go ahead.
The other thing is that I see here, it gets 4,000 and a part-time staff member. And at the present time, it doesn't say anything about a part-time staff member.
So the proposal is to go from 4,000, which it currently is, to 8,000 with no part-time staff member. Okay.
Okay. Who is, not who, but where's the part-time staff? What is that? Who is it? Or what?
Mark, maybe this predates me, the part-time staff member. I'm just reporting what was in the annual report. So I'm not sure who held that position.
I'm gonna kick that further down the road to Vanessa because she predates me. And I'm not sure I'm qualified to answer that one.
Yeah, excuse me. I think going back many, many years, it was a part-time employee off and on. There was a separate line item for that. But that's going back a really long time.
Who helps him keep track of all these hearings and all the research and all the other stuff that he has to do?
Well, most recently, the admin portion actually has expanded tremendously with all the postings and, you know, documentation required for the public hearings. So our admin staff actually does give him assistance in prepping the package. He does the lion's share, but, you know, packaging it up and distributing it and making sure that, you know, the hearing notice is done falls on our admin staff. But the tree warden does all the legwork in the field, analyzing the trees, going to the hearings, speaking to the trees, coordinating with the arborist if we need one. So those things he does.
And this also will be effective July 1st, 25?
That's correct.
You want to make your motion, Dorian?
Okay, make a motion to approve the annual stipend for the tree warden from $4,000 to $8,000 annually.
Second.
For purpose of discussion, that would obviously be effective July 1, 2025. If enacted by town meeting as part of the SAP. And Bill just wanted to extend thanks to you for bringing this forward, and to Chris, the current employee that occupies this position, because I think we've all acknowledged the amount of work that is going into it. And you know, thank you for the efforts here and bringing it forward.
Happy to do it. Thank you.
All right. So with that, we need a vote. Dorian?
Aye.
John?
Yes.
And I am I as well. So that is unanimous, Bill.
Thank you. Have a good day.
All right. Thank
Yeah.
you. All right. Next is approved request for FY25 professional development funding.
So there is a memo in your packet regarding this request. We have two requests for this month. The first one would be for $2,200 to do a morning workshop with Jean Hurdle, who has done a number of employee trainings and coaching and mentoring for us before. This came about because she was offering this workshop in the Metro West very recently, and I had sent it out, as I do often, to the staff for regional trainings, and you know, at least 6 or 7 people wrote back right away saying, you know, they would really like to attend this one. But it was $675 per person, and nobody really had that kind of excess money in their budget. So I reached out to Ms. Hurdle asking what her quote would be if she just did it here on site. And that is the result of this request. That is part one. Part two is we are also looking for $925 to send Melanie, our executive assistant in our office, to the Human Resources MMHR seminar that is in collaboration with Suffolk University. That's an all online course, so there's no need to travel anywhere. It's all done remotely. And she is beginning to help us, as I know she did, you know, during the recent salary survey and with formatting job descriptions and other tasks that Mark and I are mentoring her in. So we think this would be a great plan for her professional development this year.
And this would normally come out of the selectmen's budget?
It would, but we don't have an awful lot of funding there. And because we've reframed our tuition reimbursement line as, you know, to also cover workplace development, we wanted to seek that support from the personnel board for both of these.
All right. So let's go back to option one, which is the or request one, I guess I should call it,
Yep.
which was the townwide training, which would be for all employees, not just SAP employees, correct?
Correct.
Are there any questions on that?
Nope.
All right, then I'll make a motion to support that as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
No.
All right, roll call vote. Dorian,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
and I am I as well.
Thank you.
All right, then on the employee specific training, questions on that?
Nope.
my question, Vanessa, is not on the value of the course. It's the job description of the individual that's going. Does that job description have any sort of HR function in it right now?
In a support role, yes, helping us, prep for, our board meetings and helping me do research, for the personnel board and gathering data and analysis and, what's happening in other communities that, we've been asking about. So, I don't know that I'd have to go look again if it's spelled out directly that way, but, she definitely is supporting the work of these boards in a support role, in a research role.
Should that responsibility be added to her job description?
Again, I don't have her job description open in front of me. I'd be happy to go back and look at that and see.
To be clear, I'm supportive of this, but I just feel like you're going to come back to us with a change to their job description. And I also look at the actual title of the position. It's executive assistant to the select board, not to the town administrator, not to assistant town administrator, not to the personnel board. So I just feel like there's a corollary effect that is coming on this, which I'm fine with, by the way. But I think we need to be eyes wide open to, like, if this is a new expectation of that position, because we're funding the employee development, then we just need to be clear with that. But again, I believe it's worthwhile training. I believe that it makes sense, but I just think there's a corollary effect to this.
Sure, yeah. And I think, positions evolve over time and, we're thinking a lot about succession planning and what can we do now to help train the employees that we do have and make sure they're happy in their role and getting the professional development that they're searching for. But we'll take a very close look at her job description language as well.
Any further discussion on this? Then I will make a motion to support the MMA HR training for the executive assistant to the select board. Is there a second?
Second.
Yeah, Jack, you get that one.
All right. Any further discussion? Roll call vote. Dorian,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
and I am aye as well.
Thank
All right.
you.
Thanks for that. Next is review of warrant article for April 7th annual town meeting for a potential FY26 salary study.
Sure. So we're in the process now of getting the draft warrant ready for the select board to start reviewing. And this is an article that would be new for the personnel board to fund this through a warrant article. We did, when we talked about this in the fall, excuse me, about the potential of moving this study up, we did go out and get quotes. We only got one response from MGT, which was the former GovHR has been bought out by a more national company. And that was in the range of a little over $21,000. So I just wanted to check in with the board and see if you're still comfortable with that range. Is, generally these projects cost around between 20 and 25,000. We'll have a warrant article draft language in your packet for next month, but I just wanted to check in and see if you wanted any other information related to that warrant article.
I think we need to take a step back and make sure that people are actually supportive of doing a warrant article for this first. I don't think we've actually taken and I acknowledge we've had differing views on this as we've had the discussion. So I want to start there, then we can get to the cost or what additional information. But I think there's a fundamental question first is, assuming it's just the three of us that are making the official votes on what to bring to town meeting from a personnel board perspective, where do we stand on whether we want to go out and do a salary survey and use an outside consultant next year to satisfy an early quadrennial review?
Yeah, John.
Ladies first.
I was gonna say that I think we need to get this done. There are some salaries, especially for older employees, I think we really need to revisit anyway, and to get another opinion and have a professional take a look at where we're at, I think is very important.
Go ahead, John.
I disagree. I think we should stay on the same schedule that we were required to stay on. I don't agree investing any more 20,000 or 25,000 in a salary study at this time.
If we were up for our quadrennial review, would you think about it differently, John?
Pardon?
If we were up for our quadrennial review right now, like this year, would you have a different view or no?
No, I think we should wait and stay on the, what is it, every 3 years? That
Four.
we're
Yeah.
required to do, yeah.
Okay. So so if we were at our 4th year now, you would bring this article forward, but it's because we're doing it early is where your opposition is?
Basically, yeah.
Okay. I don't like being a tiebreaker, but I'm more in the Dorian camp. I don't want to spend the money, but I think we owe it to our employees to get an external view. And I realize these things are never perfect. I realize everyone's not happy with the last one, but if we do nothing, then nothing will change absent us arbitrarily doing things, which I think you can arbitrarily do something and you will make someone very happy and you will make 5 other people not so happy or feel so. That is where I'm at. I think obviously given how tight budget is this year, I think it is certainly worth a broader discussion with the select board like we discussed last time, and likely advisory plays into this as well. And I am going to put a request into Kathy to get on the agenda for an upcoming select board meeting, because I think regardless of whether the town supports the study or not, right? Ultimately, town meeting will have to make a decision on that if we bring forward this warrant article. We have a broader, what do we want the town of Southborough to be from an employer perspective moving forward? That goes well beyond the personnel board and goes to, recruitment, retention strategies, many of the other things we've talked about before. So I don't want to drift too far from just discussing whether we put a warrant article forward or not, but I think that would naturally come up as part of this conversation as it advances through the budgetary process. All right. So I'm going to move that the personnel board. Hang on. Before I make my motion, Vanessa, you probably want an amount for a placeholder too, so that it can be in a budget, right?
Yeah, we can, if you prefer, Phil, plug that in, at the next month's meeting. But we just wanted to know, are we definitely going forward writing and drafting a warrant article?
Okay. All right. So I will move that the personnel board support the drafting of a separate warrant article to perform a salary classification and compensation study in FY26.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call vote. Dorian?
Aye.
John?
No,
And I am an aye. So it carries 2-1.
Okay, we'll have that ready for next month.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Any other business for today?
When's our next meeting?
Board calendar, I'll have Vanessa send around some potential options for dates. Hopefully we have another new member to join us by then, but I'm not, we need to plan on all 3 of us being here. And I will certainly schedule a interim meeting between now and if we go about 30 days out, if Vanessa has any developments on agenda item 4A, which was the existing employee salary structure.
Can we try to schedule out a couple of months, Jason, instead of doing this month by month? Because I have a lot of travel coming up and I'd rather have a heads up on what we're looking at for meetings.
Certainly can try.
I mean, I can always bring my computer with me, but
Yeah, I think so. Vanessa, why don't we solicit dates for February prior to President's Day?
Mhm.
And then early March at this
Okay.
point. And then I would say a late March placeholder in case there's anything needed for town meeting. But I would hope that based on, I think we have the universe of what we're considering. I would hope that that one doesn't end up being needed for at least town meeting purposes.
When does the warrant close, Mark?
So
Okay.
we were taking a look at, that. The town meeting is April 7th. I think the selectmen looking to have them sign final warrant for posting on the 18th of March.
Okay.
So we're gonna need things in at least a week in advance of that.
Okay. I was just curious as to when the warrant closed this year. Thank you. I'm not adding anything to it. I just wanted to know.
Okay. All right, so Vanessa, let's do a poll on that, anchor towards the front or back end of the week. And then Farrell can just let us know for those weeks, whether it be virtual or in person.
Perfect. Thank you.
Good, John.
You went over it kind of fast and I missed it. Other business. I want to commend Amy Berry for the information she gave us when we were researching whether it's three or five members of the personnel board. It was interesting. I don't know whether, well, I suppose we could go into the town report to find out who was on the personnel board on March 8th, 65. And if they're still alive, why was it proposed to go from 3 to 5? You know, why that
So
happened.
John, I'm going to interrupt you. That will be on a future meeting to discuss. We're going to discuss that at a future meeting. It's not on the agenda, so I appreciate the commending Amy for her research, but that will be a future meeting once we can get through that select board discussion.
I thought we would have discussed it today. That's all right. Thank you.
I will move to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Roll call vote, Dorian,
Aye.
John,
Hi.